Good afternoon. It's Sunday, May 17th, 2020. You're listening to the Best Lamb Sports Show, coming to you live from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Ellensburg, Washington. We're also streaming on YouTube right now, streaming live. But if you're listening to us, you already know that. And so,
It's
with me,
accurate.
with me as always is my son Parker.
Hello, everybody.
And we are without AJ today, but we are going to try and muddle through it. We'll be fine, I'm sure. Hopefully, he'll be back next week. Um, you can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. You can tweet at us, at lambsports, on the Twitter. And if you Facebook search the Best Lamb Sports Show, you will get a link to our episodes. We record everything there. And you can actually go look at all of the recordings in the yeah, what is it? The Google Cloud.
The drive.
The Drive. That's what it's called.
It's on the drive. Yep.
They call it the Drive. So, um, COVID. COVID-19 is still dominating
Still
pretty much
here.
everything we do. I mean, pretty much
Yeah.
still. Unless, of course, you're in Florida or Texas or one of those states that
It,
they decided
which
to.
I don't know. Just don't know if they don't believe in it.
You
They're just
know,
ignoring it.
I, that's what it is. It's not that they don't believe in it. I think it's just that they're ignoring it. I think that they have decided that we can't wait any longer. The economy is going to be so bad that if we don't start now, then everything is lost and no one will have any money when we do reopen at the cost of other people's lives. That's
It's a
kind of
very
how.
southern thing. Ignore the problem until it goes away.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch the different states' responses to this and the people that are taking the more proactive approach to safety as opposed to others who are like, oh, I need to make a dollar, so safety is really not that important. And I think you're seeing some of that in sports too, um, in the opening and the way things are handled and the way things are being proposed for reopening. And we'll get to that in a minute. That's what today's show is all about. We're going to check out what's happening in the world of sports in relation to the outbreak, the pandemic. As always, the first segment of our show is brought to you by The Range. The Range in Yakima is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. At 34,000 square feet, The Range is an all inclusive facility offering firearm training, firearm sales, gunsmithing, custom builds, and Cerakote services all under one roof. Go see him at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima, Washington. The phone number is 509-571-1449. They're open Tuesday through Sunday, 11 to 7. Okay, so basically, sports are back, kinda. That's the lead story here, kinda.
Which I'm happy about. We like sports.
Right, except what we're watching right now is not.
Not the best sports. It's
It's
not the
not.
sports I really want to watch.
Okay, so soccer's back, and that's one of the biggest sports in the world. So I'm okay with that. But right now, as we speak, NASCAR is racing,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and I mean it's while it is live sports and there are no fans. They are running the Real Heroes 400 at Darlington Raceway. Kevin
Are
Harvick.
they all doctors?
Yeah, I think that's what this is. I think this is absolutely all all doctors
All
racing.
doctors. The real heroes
That
cruise.
that would be a fantastic, I think, fundraising charity event.
Well,
But,
it'd be much slower.
well, I mean, maybe some of those.
I don't know. I don't know about you, but I don't think the doctors that I have are going to jump in a car and go
I,
200 plus.
but I feel like doctors in general might might have cars that go 200. Um,
Some of them.
right?
I am learning now that it is going to be a long time before my wife, who's in med school, becomes a doctor and makes money. Like apparently that's a process. That 300,000, 400,000 mark where doctors are driving Mercedes, that's down the road.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a private practice after you've done things for a while kind of deal.
I had
Uh,
no idea. I thought it was immediate. I thought you finished med school and boom,
right.
there you are,
Yeah.
making money.
They handed you a stack of cash right when you got done.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
Well, you keep hoping. Maybe it'll work out. I mean, she's got a couple more years, right?
Yeah, she can figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, she's a smart girl. I have faith in her. So
Right.
anyway, so NASCAR is racing, and they're racing right now. And as I just said, Kevin Harvick was in the lead. I'm wrong because now it's Brad Keselowski. Um, but it's NASCAR. It's going to change back and forth, so you really can't say who's in the lead until you get to the end and you figure out who won. Because there's going to be a crash in the last lap. You know how it works.
That's about right.
That is about normal. So they put some safety precautions in place so they could run an event. There's no fans, clearly. Everyone had their temperature checked going in. The masks are required. There's social distancing in the garage area. They've spread out the pit crews to try and put more space between groups. Um, you're not going to be able to eliminate interaction. I think that's just the thing. The people are going to be, you know, near each other. A pit crew operates pretty close by. I mean, only a car. It's a car width at most that they're apart from each other. You know what I mean?
Well, the pit crew members themselves, but they're talking about like the different pit crews, right?
Sure.
Like so and so's team and
Yeah.
so and so's team are a little apart more.
Right. They've spread the teams apart as much as they can, but you still have however many cars in a short pit row. You're going to have, you know, you can't spread them out too far. You don't only have so much room. So, but they're trying. They're doing the best they can. It's just interesting to me that, you know, the drivers, they're already wearing PPE. They got a helmet, they got a fire suit, they're in the car by themselves. Nobody even has to come to the window, right? So
They're about as social distance as they can get.
they are safer from this than I am when I go to McDonald's for the drive-through.
Very
So,
true.
right, except they're doing 200 miles an hour, and that's a little unsafe. But long story short, it's good. It's good that it's back. It's good. It's a start. I think the thing to watch is afterwards when they test people again. Is anybody going to be positive? What happens then? Does an entire crew get shut down if one person's positive and has been to the track, or is it more than that? The limited interaction is going to be a thing, I think.
I guess the real question is, are you more likely to die from COVID or driving in a NASCAR race?
I think COVID. I think that not
I
driving.
think so,
I
yeah.
think that driving in a NASCAR race is pretty safe. They've engineered it that way. Um, you've seen the guys have the accidents and they come back from those things, and sometimes they're not even damaged. You see a car flip over and it doesn't even. Psh, he got scrapes. Okay,
Dude just gets out and
yeah,
walks away.
right. He just out. I mean, this is no big deal.
I'm in a
Not
fender bender and my back hurts for like a month. This guy just gets out of a flipping car,
at,
it's on fire.
at 50 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour, you get an fender bender in your car and it's ow. And these
Dude, at
guys,
20 miles an hour, so I can back into a pole in a parking lot and I'm gonna be sore for a while.
it's definitely a different world that they live in than we do. We do not have the safety that they have.
Very
Um,
true.
Anyway, so NASCAR's back and they're racing right now. And let's just get a quick update just in case that another lead change has happened because could be anybody at this point. Um,
It's anybody's game.
what's that?
It's anybody's game right now.
It is still Brad Keselowski who's leading, um, and for some reason or other, can't quite get the feed that tells me what lap they're on. Give me just a second.
Like who it is.
Yeah, where we are in the race because I know they started at 12:30, but I don't know what that means in terms of. I figure if you're going 200 miles an hour, you should be done by now, right? Um, but apparently, but apparently that's not the thing. So lap
I moved
189.
to streaming the other day or a little while ago, and so like I don't even get the channel, and I'm kind of bummed because it's the only sports event going on right now. I can't watch it.
So if you want to watch it, it's on Fox. Um, and right now, Alex Bowman is now the leader, the number 88 car, ahead of Brad Keselowski, who's 0.72 seconds behind him. So clearly not very far.
All
Um,
right.
but that's the current. Kevin Harvick is third. Martin Truex Jr. is in fourth. But that's where they are. 189 laps out of I don't know how many they're racing. 400 miles. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about. I don't know how big the track is, to be honest with you. I'm not a NASCAR fan, in case you can't tell already by what I've just said. Jimmy Johnson had a wreck already in this race.
He's out.
Yeah, he's out. So it's a big deal. But anyway, if you're a NASCAR fan, you're loving it. If you're not, you're probably listening to me going, I really don't care. So NASCAR's back. What else is back? Well, Bundesliga is back.
Bundesliga.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that is the German soccer league, German professional soccer. The Bundesliga is back after a 2-month absence. They are in match day 26 out of 34. They're going to play the remaining 9 weeks of the season after a 2-month off suspension. And they started on Saturday morning, and it'll go on for the next 8 weeks after this week. So it's German soccer is probably some of the best soccer you'll watch. The English Premier League is widely considered the top league in the world for the number of players and the level of quality. But the Bundesliga is probably right in there at number 2 or 3, and it's fun to watch. I love watching soccer. You?
It's pretty neat. I like watching it. It's really weird to look at these games now because the stadiums are just empty.
Empty.
It's so strange not having the backdrop of like waving scarves and a giant flag somewhere, and sometimes people have smoke. They do it at the Timbers games. People have smoke. I don't know where that comes from, but they have it. Like it's just empty now.
You wouldn't think that would be something you're allowed to have. Like,
Dude,
oh, oh,
every game somebody brings in this giant canister of green smoke and pops the top, and it just drenches the crowd in what I can only
uh,
assume is not healthy smoke.
I I don't know that they make healthy smoke.
Well,
So
for sports, you gotta do it.
right, I mean, it is a visually appealing part of the game. I mean, it is really cool to see. It's just I can't, for the life of me, I've watched Timbers games on TV, and you could not pay me enough money to go stand in
Timbers
the
Army.
Timbers Army section and
No way.
have all that going on. Not to mention probably 1,000 or 1,500 drunk fans spilling beer on me. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't look great. Like every time I've been to a couple games, and every time I look over to my left, I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not sitting there.
and
I
I'm sure
just I just want to sit down.
they're having fun. I'm sure it's great. And if you get drunk enough, then great. You're in there with everybody else, and the world is good, right? But if you're not, anyway. So Bundesliga is back. For those of you who care, Bayern Munich leads the table there. They have 58 points, and Borussia Dortmund is second at 54. They're going to play here in a couple weeks, but it's probably Bayern's to win. They started off slow this year, but they're come on strong and they're on fire. So they have the best team maybe in the world. Just
Ooh, that's a bold take.
yeah, it's debatable. They're going to go if they had the UEFA Champions League still going on, you'd be able to tell. But they are really really good, and watching them dominate um, German soccer pretty much now at this point. They started out, like I said, they started out slowly, and they had a little lull in the mid-season. But just before the Christmas break, they started on fire. Since then, they're 11. Well, wait, 12, 0 and 1. So they won 12 and tied one. They're undefeated.
With a nice healthy break in the middle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they had a Christmas break that was 2 weeks long, and then the COVID break, which was 8 weeks long. So, but anyway,
You don't have an excuse for still having injured players unless it was like a truly devastating injury.
and it's funny too because like you mentioned, the stadiums are empty, and when you hear someone hit a soccer ball at the professional level, when you hear someone make solid contact and really fire a shot, it echoes throughout that stadium and like a cannon almost. Boom! It just sounds crazy loud. And
It's so weird. Like it's doable. You can watch it. You actually don't have to watch it with the sound on if that bothers you. But it's just so weird, man. I can't get over it. Like I'm staring at the seats more than I'm staring at the field.
yeah, that's exactly right. So also out there, what's going on right now, if we want to talk about this, is the Korean baseball organization, the KBO, is back. They've been playing for I think 3 weeks now, and each team's played about 12 games, and it is baseball, and it does have some former major leaguers and some minor leaguers that are playing right now, and it's a different level of baseball. It's like watching a double A baseball game if you're not familiar. It's like watching. I used to live in Tennessee in Knoxville. It's like watching the Tennessee Smokies, who are a Cubs affiliate, play baseball in the Southern League. It is baseball, and some of it's good, and some of it
Some
is
of
not.
it's good. Some of it's good.
There are a lot more errors and a lot more mistakes and a lot more things that go on in that kind of game. But they play good baseball. But again, they're playing in front of empty crowds or empty stadiums. Except they have those little banners that have the people on them that have masks on. That looks like the seats are filled. It
And also, baseball is not a sport that requires fans in attendance. It's nice to hear the roar of a crowd when somebody hits one towards the wall, but for the most part, it's more of a murmur. People are just talking to each other during the game. Oh, look, there's another ball. Oh,
it's
look, there's another ball. Crack. And then it goes away.
I
Like soccer's constant cheering from start to finish.
oh they're chanting and singing and all that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Baseball is a casual sport
I
from a fan's perspective.
So here's a question for you that has come up to me as I've been studying all these sports and reopening and what looks, playing in front of emptiness. Um, what happens to home field advantage at that point? Because you don't really have, like in basketball, you have a home court advantage because
Yeah.
your fans are close to the court. If you're a player, you can hear the fans. You feel them. You know what I mean? When it gets loud and raucous, you actually feel the things and the shaking, and you can actually it gets into you. And when you're the home team, that provides you that you feed off that. But without it, there is no home team. There's no home court advantage other than the other team had to
Yeah,
travel
a
to see
little
you.
lost.
Yeah. So I want
I think the home field advantage is the travel now. Like,
right.
does the travel hinder you, or does it make you tired and things like that? Otherwise, it's just a game in another place.
And we're going to talk about the NBA here more in a little bit because it is interesting to hear the proposals, the idea for reopening that they haven't even gotten started really rolling yet on the proposal to get reopened. I feel like they're way behind the curve, but KBO is up and running, and they have um, you know what? I don't even know where my other slide went. There's so technical difficulties on my end. I apologize to everyone,
It
but
happens.
but I had up the actual standings for the KBO.
Well, they've only got 10 teams in their league, and right now the NC Dinos are leading it.
The NC,
They're
yeah,
10 to 1, 10 to 1, 10 wins to 1 loss, and they're about 3 games up over a handful of teams.
yeah, they're 10-1. I figure that's pretty good. I mean,
It's
after
not
11
bad.
games,
They're cruising.
they don't have the best batting average in the league, but they are um, leading the league in home runs and leading the league in ERA for pitchers. So that's probably why they're 10-1. And they have a 3-game lead over Doosan and the LG Twins. And we could go on about the team names, which are really quite interesting. Um, but they're mostly sponsored, Kia, Samsung, LG.
Yeah, there's a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's a couple of the other ones that like the NC Dinos. I don't know what NC stands for.
I don't either.
They're in like Changwon or something like that is the name of the city they're in. I have no clue what the NC stands for. So
Right. I don't either. I suppose we'll have to look that up. You know what? That's an update for next week. That's your job. That's your homework. Next week,
gotcha.
I want to know what the NC Dinos and the LG, well, LG's company. How about the KT? There's
Okay, so I got it already. They're owned by video game developer NC Soft.
Oh,
Is
okay.
the yeah, it's the NC Soft Corporation. So that's where they're the NC
So
Dinos.
then I'm going to go out on a limb and say that all of these teams are sponsor named, and then whatever like the Twins or the Giants or the whatever, the Eagles, the Hanwha Eagles. Um, anyway, so long story short, the NC Dinos 10-1, leading the league. Looks like they're running away with it at this point. We've only played 11 games. I don't know how many they're gonna play. I really don't know the
There's a lot
actual.
of season left.
There's still some season left, yeah. Um, and that's interesting. I mean, in that it's on ESPN if you want to watch it. They broadcast a couple of games a week, or 2 or 3 games, something like that, and you can watch the baseball. It is live baseball. It is, but you got to get up early because it
Yeah,
is in Korea.
that's not happening.
Because it is in Korea.
The
So
problem is that no one's getting up early for baseball. Right? You
no,
might get up early to go watch a football game or a basketball game because you've kind of been preconditioned to it. But again, baseball is a casual sport. No one's waking up at 7 a.m. to watch the game. If you're up at 7 a.m., you might watch it. No one's getting up like, oh man, can't wait to watch this Korean baseball game. I'm gonna set my alarm for 6:45. Get up and get ready for it. Like it's not happening.
to be fair,
Get ready for 9 innings.
to I would love to watch 3.5 hours of baseball at 2 in the morning. To be
Right.
to be fair, if you're an insomniac and you're having some trouble, that's probably the thing. But
Oh, baseball puts you right to sleep.
right. So and I love baseball. Don't get me wrong, I love baseball. Don't anybody who's a baseball fan take this comment the wrong way. I love baseball. It's probably my favorite sport. It is just boring as crud to watch.
It's
So
more fun to play and it's more fun to be at.
if you're at the game, it's different. Yeah, the atmosphere, the ballpark. You can go get food. You can go get drink. You can keep score. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can do that at
It
home too
is
on
so
TV. But
boring that they put in a stretch in the middle. They ask you to get up out of your seat and get some blood flow because you've been sitting down for 2.5 hours.
because they know you haven't stood up yet. So
That's how boring baseball can be.
and I admire anyone who can sit all the way to the seventh inning stretch. By the way, I can't do it. My body will just ache and ache if I try to get up after 2.5 hours. No way.
I'm
Anyway,
willing to bet you there are more people who fall asleep at baseball games than any other sport.
okay, there's a challenge.
That's the research topic for next week.
I will do that homework and see if I can find out statistics on people falling asleep. Although I did see from this last football season, this college football season, there were people asleep in the stands. I watched
Yeah, but
two or three of them.
the Northwestern versus Indiana game, like somebody sleeping up there after that blowout, like that's not the same as like no one's sleeping at the Alabama game. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like I
no,
don't.
no, they just don't come when they're.
That's right. They just don't show up.
And then
Yeah.
Nick Saban has to lecture them. Anyway,
Right.
all right. So KBO's out there. You guys, everybody who wants to watch it, you should definitely check it out. It's on ESPN. Also, at this point in time, we had a UFC fight, UFC 249, a whole card of UFC that occurred last weekend. We didn't talk about it last week. We had other things to talk about, but um, Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje went at it in the what is it, the lightweight championship, the interim quote unquote lightweight championship. Don't ask me why it's interim, but it was the interim lightweight championship, and it was a 5 round TKO for Justin Gaethje, and it it was, from what I've seen of it, and I haven't seen the whole thing because I didn't pay the money for it.
I'm
Again,
not gonna. I'm not gonna pay the money for it either.
I'm not a fan necessarily of UFC. I don't mind watching it if it's on. I won't tune to it specifically. Um, but it was interesting. It has some brutality to it that is kind of like a car wreck. You can't turn away. When you see it, once it's on, you can't watch, like, go to something else because you're like, oh, maybe something's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, and Dana White, the president of UFC, definitely told us they were going to continue to go at it, and they are. So you were forewarned that UFC is going to keep going on, and it is. Um, they did have a positive test before the fight, before the actual Saturday
Dun, dun,
event.
dun.
Yeah, positive test. Ronaldo Souza tested positive and was still he he tested positive on the Friday morning before the fights on Saturday. He told them he had a positive test in his family, and they still let him come to the thing, drive from Jacksonville to
Yeah.
Orlando, and I'm Orlando to Jacksonville. I'm sorry. And I don't know why you would do that. If there was any positive test in your family and you weren't already tested, why would they let someone come who may be positive? It just seems weird. He went to the weigh-in even, and fist bumped with Dana White. I don't know. It seems like there was a lot of unnecessary contact with someone who may or may not have been positive already, and you didn't know. So
Dana White probably has it now.
you know, and we haven't heard
And if
that
Dana
yet.
White got it, then everybody that he fist bumped with over that weekend has
Right.
got it.
Right. I mean,
Maybe. Maybe.
fist bumps are quote unquote safer, but only if you sanitize afterwards. So,
Sure.
as long as you're washing your hands and sanitizing, I suppose it's okay. But it just seems like unnecessary risk, putting other people at risk, because I don't know how many people he comes in contact with, each one of them. Each person you touch, how many people are they going to come in contact with later? So the spread can become really, really
It's too
quick.
uncontrolled. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not super, super careful. But anyway, so that happened. UFC was a big deal, and again, positive tests, because positive tests are a thing. In the Bundesliga, they had a positive test. One of the teams had a player that tested positive, and he's been quarantined prior to this weekend. So whether he or not he was in contact with the rest of the team and practicing, and how much contact there was, but the other players on that team have been tested and apparently are negative, so they played this weekend anyway. I don't know. I mean, it seems like that's the kind of thing you're going to run into right now, is that teams are going to.
You're not going to be able to avoid somebody getting infected. Like it's so contagious. It spreads so fast. It's eventually somebody on your team is going to get infected. You just have to do what you can to get them away and hope that it doesn't infect other people.
Unless you're doing like I am, which is pretty much just staying. I work from home. We do the studio here at home, and I went out of the house yesterday. Actually drove 20 miles
Oh
because,
no.
yeah, because, well, 30, because because the coffee that we like is only available at one store. And
You know,
I went to go get coffee, and I bought enough coffee so I didn't have to go back to that place for 3 months. So it's not like yes, it might have been unnecessary. We can call it an unnecessary trip if you want to, but I'm the only person who went in. Your mom and I both went. We took the dogs, but she stayed in the truck with the dogs. We then went to Popeye's drive-thru so we could get a crispy chicken sandwich that I
heck
hadn't
yeah.
had. I hadn't had one yet, so, and I
They're all right.
had one yesterday for the first time, and I will give it a solid 8. But it's
Ooh,
not.
I was sitting at like a 7.
It,
maybe a 6.5. So
I
maybe I got a bad one.
I liked it because of the plainness of it. I'm not a big pickle fan, and that the only thing pretty much on it, right, is mayonnaise and pickle, for the most part, or some kind of
There's
sauce.
there's one guaranteed way to ruin any food, and that's pickles.
Dill pickles. I mean, come on, people. Anyway, it was pretty. It tasted pretty good. I didn't mind the bun, the buttery bun that they use, whatever that was. It's like a I don't know if it's sweet bread or what it is that they put it on, but it was really really good.
Make
Um,
sure you tune in next week for a review of Arby's food.
right. We may we may delve into food too if we got time. Uh,
Every week we'll talk about a new sandwich.
it was anyway, but that was my trip, and I was excited to be out of the house. I was so thrilled that I had gotten out just to be somewhere else other than my house and see my backyard. You know what I mean? I could actually do something. I was excited to do this show today because I go upstairs and I get to look out the side windows that I don't normally look out in the spare bedroom, out of the
Right.
studio window, and I get to see things I don't see, like I'm looking in the neighbor's backyard, watching them in the hot tub. Anyway, um, it's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm like, wow, there's people out doing stuff. Look at that. Anyway, so it's just that level now. I've reached that level of being in the house long enough where I go any trip in the car was fun and exciting. It didn't matter where we were going. I was like, woohoo, let's go.
Worth it. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
get out.
yeah, let's just get out of the house. Um, all right, so that's we're gonna get off topic, and I knew we would, but that's fine because that's what
Happens every
today's
week.
about. That's what we do. So those are the sports I know for sure are happening right now. Everyone else is kind of. We can talk about golf actually having an event today. PGA Tour has the tailor-made. Oh gosh, what's it called? I don't want to get the name wrong. Give me a second. The tailor-made driving relief skins game that's happening
What?
at the Seminole Golf Club in Florida, and it's a. If you've never played a skins game, what a skins game basically is there's you play 18 holes. Each hole has a certain amount of money attached to it. And what they're doing is they're four professional players in teams of two, and whoever if one of the teams gets a lower score, whoever wins the hole gets the money for that hole. If there's a tie, that money rolls over to the next hole. So let's assume the first hole is worth $5,000. If you
Right.
tie, the second hole, which was also worth $5,000, is now worth 10.
Well,
And
I like that.
and whoever wins the hole gets all that money. And they're playing for charity. It's all for COVID related charities, and they're giving away all this money. And it's more than $5,000. I'm gonna let you know that right now. They're playing for big money. Um, and of course, we also have the Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady thing coming next weekend for Memorial Day weekend. So there are events happening out there in golf. They haven't played a full on tour event yet, but we'll talk about more about that. You know what the best thing about this tour, this tailor made driving relief skins game was they let them play in shorts.
I've never understood why pants are such a faux pas
I don't
in the
either.
golf world.
I don't either. And yet they let women wear shorts and skirts on the women's tour, but not the men. Well, and granted, they probably have better looking legs than we do, but it's still. Come on, the shorts are so much more comfortable. Wouldn't you be more comfortable playing? It's 100 degrees outside. It's 94% humidity. Put pants on. Really?
Maybe talking about the least progressive sports. It took them 40 years to to make them stop wearing sweatshirts.
And it's just, I mean, I don't know. It seems to me that golf would be a lot better. One of the also things, they didn't have any caddies at this event. So they had to carry or cart their own clubs. I thought that
I
was
like that.
I thought that was a great
Well, that's
idea.
why they wore the shorts.
I think that would be a great equalizer on the tour. If you had to carry your own bag all the time, it would make it, you change the way the PGA Tour's player is built. You're not just made to hit golf shots. You got to be able to carry a bag 18 holes 4 days straight. So I think that would be a great thing. I think that's a level of difficulty. Yeah, to do that once a year, just make everybody carry their own bag on
I
a
think
tour
it's a great idea.
on a tour event. It would change the way that happens. Anyway, so that's back
It's going to
to
change the energy you have left in the back, like the back 5 holes.
I will tell you this. I like to walk and I like to carry my bag. Um, if I do that, I have to eat a sandwich or something by about the sixth or seventh hole. If I don't, by the time I reach the 12th or 13th hole, I'm done. There's nothing left, and that's just one round. That's not like the fourth round after 4 days. That's just one round. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You get really tired all of a sudden, especially if it's warm outside. So I could see that being a game changer in an event where you had to make it rough and you have to carry your own bag because those guys have big old bags that have a lot of clubs in them and they're heavy. My bag is light and made to carry, so might change the way they do things. Anyway, it'd be fun to watch. So
You know.
we'll suggest that to the PGA Tour and see if they bite.
Ooh, I like that idea.
So now we're going to talk about what's coming up next week, and next week is the first round of our 2000s NFL Championship, and we're going to have the wild card weekend. So what we've done, in case you didn't hear it last week, we've selected 8 teams. Um, wait, 16. I just expanded the playoff without knowing it. We selected six
Just
teams.
got way bigger.
We selected 6 teams from the AFC from the 2000s, that decade, right? 2000 to 2009. There are 6 teams. I have 4 division winners and 2 wild card teams, and they're chosen by me. They're the teams I determined were the best from their division, the best team in their division from that decade. So it's totally subjective. It is not objective in any form or fashion. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find 6 better teams in each conference than I picked. Um, for example, the AFC wildcard weekend we're going to start next weekend with the wildcard weekend. AFC lineup looks like this: the number 6 seed, the wildcard team, the Oakland Raiders, the 2002 Oakland Raiders, who were 11-5, are going to play at the 2006 Indianapolis Colts, who are 12-4, and the Indianapolis Colts are the South Division champions. That is going to be a good matchup.
It's not gonna be bad.
Yeah, that's good football right there. Those are 2 really good football teams. And the 5-4 matchup is the wild card Baltimore Ravens, 2000 Baltimore Ravens at 12-4, and the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers at 12-4, a divisional matchup. And the Steelers are the North Division champions. That is also going to be great football.
Gosh, just that I would love to watch these games.
Yes, these would be fantastic
It's
on
the same
TV.
thing as the basketball thing. I would love to watch these games
Yeah,
play, especially with football because it's more one game matters. So they try a little harder.
it's going to be harder to pick the winners of this than it was for a basketball series. To say this was you're going to play 7 games of these 2 teams against each other, you kind of get a feel for who's going to be better over the course of a series. But one game, anybody could beat anybody in one game. Um, 2007 Patriots. You guys know,
Sounds great.
you guys know what we're talking about here. So, and then on the other side is the NFC, and the NFC wild card weekend um, is as follows. It has the 2007 New York Giants at 10-6, the wild card winner, at the 2006 Chicago Bears. That's the other Super Bowl team that played against the '06 Colts, who are in the other bracket. Um,
Right.
yeah, and they're playing they're the North Division champions for the NFC North. The other game is the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 2004 Philadelphia Eagles, who are the East Division champs.
There's some great teams in here. Some
So
good, some good quarterback play.
there's going to be a lot of great quarterbacks. There's a few good running backs that may be the difference, I think, in some of these games. And then you have the intangible teams like the Giants, who won the Super Bowl, are the worst record in this tournament. And not only did they win the Super Bowl, they beat the unbeaten Patriots. So it will be interesting to watch this unfold. And we told you last week who the number 1 and 2 seeds were. We're not going to talk about it until next week when we figure out who the champions of the wild card weekend is and we set up the divisional round and we talk about that. So that's coming next weekend with AJ and Parker. We're going to talk about,
Hash it out.
yeah, we're going to figure out who wins these 4 games, and it's not going to be easy. I'm looking forward to it a ton.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the NFC stuff. I think more than the AFC stuff. I think there's some really interesting teams over there.
So right now we're going to do This Day in Sports. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Stave and Stone Winery and Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. Stave and Stone Wine Estates at 3827 Fletcher Drive in Hood River. They are open daily at noon for bottle pickup and club sales. Go see them at Stave and Stone when their tasting room's open. Go to the tasting room out at the winery, and it is a beautiful location. You can see Mount Hood and Mount Adams and the valley, and it is a fantastic spot to just sit and have a glass of wine when, like I said, when all this blows over, and they allow them to open back up. Go see them at Stave and Stone Wine Estates. You can get my information literally just disappeared on me. You can email them info@staveandstone.com. You can call them 541-946-3750 and ask them about bottle sales, joining their wine club, free delivery in the local Hood River, Oregon area. Um, it's a fantastic. They make some great wine. Go see them at Stone Winery or Wine Estates in Hood River, Oregon. So this day in sports has one fantastic sports item, and I'm going to hold it because what we're going to talk about is happy birthday to Matt Ryan.
All right.
Quarterback of the Falcons is 35 today, born in 1985. If that doesn't make you guys feel old. And then Tony Parker turns 38 today, and he was born in 1982.
And Matt Ryan's still playing. Tony Parker is not.
There's only 3 years separated. Well, I mean, Tom Brady's 4 years older than Tony Parker, and he's still playing.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just that's my point is that I think that I don't see Matt Ryan retiring anytime soon.
Right.
Like, I think he's got like 4 or 5 more years left. But Tony Parker's was done like 2 seasons ago. He just kind of prolonged it. It just goes to show that like age with sport is different. You know, in basketball, you can't play as long, I guess.
And it's
at that position.
And it's interesting you brought that up. I would venture to guess that the rule changes that have happened over the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years have probably benefited the quarterback in the NFL more than anybody else. And so quarterbacks are playing a lot longer than they used to. Just in general. I mean, Tom Brady has been the beneficiary of all these rules. And
every one of them has been made because of Tom Brady.
It seems like it anyway. I mean, okay, so in full disclosure, I'm a Dolphins fan and I hate the Patriots. So I would tell you that the reason that every rule has been made to protect the quarterback is for Tom Brady, and I do not like him because of that. Yeah, whether it's fair or not, it is what it is. I mean, anybody who has a hatred for another team, you have that exact same feeling. So,
yeah. Well, rational or not?
Yeah, rationally. I never said it was logical. I just said it. It's what I think. I think that the Dolphins get hosed by the Patriots every year. So, anyway, this day in sports, what actually happened? Here's my one interesting statistic or fact from what happened on this day. In 1915, the Chicago Cubs pitcher George Zip Zabel came on in relief with 2 outs in the first inning, and pitched a win. Got a 4-3 victory over Brooklyn in 19 innings.
A relief pitcher pitched 19 innings?
He pitched 18 and a third innings.
Or 18. Yeah.
18 and a third innings in relief. It's the longest relief appearance ever in Major League Baseball history, and I guarantee you it will never be broken.
Yeah, because like, did they only have 2 pitchers?
I don't know
what happened.
I do not know the facts surrounding why he came in, because unless they were down 3-0 already, or the guy got hurt, and it's possible he got hurt, that he just had to come out. But I didn't.
Injury was my first thought.
Yeah, injury would be, but maybe he just gave up 3 runs and then I'm tired of this guy. I'm putting another guy in, and then he just started pitching fantastic and shut him out. I don't know, but 18 and a third innings is 2 full Major League Baseball games. People he threw on that day. In relief, like coming in, he wasn't just warming up prepared to pitch. He had to come in and go, oh, I got 8 pitches? Okay, I'm ready. You know? So wow. I find that to be a fantastic statistic that actually happened. But again, you wouldn't have that happen nowadays. And this was 105 years ago. So that's a record that will never be broken. I'm pretty certain. All right, we're going to move to the second half of the show. The second half of the show is dedicated to sports that have not reopened. First, I want to say I watched 2017 cliff diving on Fox Sports 1 the other day.
Oh my gosh.
And not on purpose. It came on. It was interesting, and a couple of things brought to mind. Number one is they don't dive. They go in feet first. Isn't that jumping? Isn't that cliff jumping?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's cliff jumping. You can't call it diving if you're not going head first.
They call it diving. They call it cliff diving. And there's a series, like it is a, hey, we move from location to location event, like NASCAR or Formula One or whatever. They move from location to location. Each week they dive off of a cliff or off of, in this case, they were showing the previews for the next week, which of course was in 2017 and I didn't see it, but somewhere in Italy, they were going to do cliff diving from a guy's balcony off. They built a platform off of this guy's balcony who lives on top of a cliff. And I'm like, this guy has like people walking through his house to get out to his balcony and they got to jump off and dive in. But people get paid for that apparently. And it's a real sport. They have scoring and everything. And I don't understand, but I watched it because it was sports and it was on. And that's what I've been boiled down to. How about you?
And I have watched the kids come and skateboard at the top of the parking garage next to my house. And we've got some favorites out here. There's one person who's learning, and then there's like four or five that are pretty good at it. But I've developed kind of a scoring system for grinds along the rails, and if you can jump completely over the handicap space, that's like 2 3 points. Like I've got that's my sports. That's what I've got going on
I,
up here. It's a great view from my couch.
I think that's fantastic. I think if you've got nothing else to do and you're looking out the window, it's better than watching cliff diving because it's live. This was 2000. This is 3 year old cliff diving. It's not even now. It's just it happened in the past and it was less than exciting. But it's what we watch. It's masquerading as sports right now, and they're putting it in as filler because there should be something awesome on, and there's not.
Yeah, there should be NBA playoffs right now.
Yeah, and so let's move into that. So this segment is going to be brought to you by Boss Kitty. Boss Kitty hand-dyed yarn. Go to bosskittyshop.com if you're interested in buying some yarn. Beautiful colors. They have fantastic things on there. Go on and look. They got notions and they got merchandise you can buy. There's mugs and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff from Boss Kitty. If you go on to bosskittylive.com each week, 6 p.m. Mondays and Wednesdays, they have a live broadcast and you can join them and watch what they're making. And there's chat going on. You can literally chat them, text them a message basically, or instant message. I guess is the term I'm looking for. I'm old and I don't know what I'm talking about. But you can
Something like that.
you can instant message them right on there, and they will respond and talk about whatever it is basically you want to talk about. They also do it at 11 a.m. every other Sunday. That's at bosskittylive.com. But bosskittyshop.com has the yarn and the merchandise. They have a lockdown special going on right now. Free domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more when you use the code wash your hands at checkout. That's still going on. So go check them out at Boss Kitty, bosskittyshop.com, bosskittylive.com. Boss Kitty yarn is yarn so boss you'll knit your pants. Second segment.
Every time.
It is the best catch. I love that. Second half of the show here basically. So we're going to talk, even though we've been talking for probably more than half. That's okay. Sports that aren't open yet. Things that have not come back. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. How come the Koreans are better than us?
And they're just more they're just thinking forward about everything. We have to deal with so many different types of people and types of scared people, and all these states are not sure about who they're trying to please. Are they trying to please their constituents? Are they trying to please the businesses, the bigger businesses that bring revenue into their state? Everyone's just too scared to make a move. I think everyone is waiting to see which state is going to make a move first and then kind of mimic that if it's successful.
And with the reopening, with all those states doing their reopening, and the Florida governor and the Arizona governor have both said, "Hey, pro sports are welcome to come back right now."
Yeah,
But
they've invited them down there. Yeah.
the question is, how do you do that when some states are and some states aren't? So the Florida teams and the Arizona teams, okay, but what about the Michigan teams? They're not open. They're still in
Yeah,
lockdown.
and a lot of those states are like that where they're not opening. It's just there's a few states that are doing it and everyone's gonna watch. And if it gets real bad down there, then they'll go, "See, we told you."
Well, one of the things I did read was that Texas, since they've reopened, has had a spike in cases. I don't know how severe it was, but definitely an uptick in the number of cases reported. So, and it's really hard when you hear those kind of things to know if it's just is it expanded testing? We've tested more people, so we're definitely going to find more, or is it just that there actually is an influx because people are out not social distancing as much? That's the question you just don't know the answer to when this stuff happens. So um, it's going to be interesting to see as more sports go, as more sports seasons come about. College football's coming up. The NCAA president Mark Emmert has said without campus being open, there won't be any sports. Ew. So,
Yeah, but also he said that if California paid athletes that they would be banned, and that didn't happen either. So
well, and by that token, the Cal State University system has has basically said they're not opening campuses through September. And so that to me said, well, of all the Cal State University teams are not going to be playing because they're not
yeah,
there, what does that do for any of the leagues that those teams are in? And Anyway, it can become a mess, and that you might have teams playing in some states and not in others. Some
Yeah, I think that it's best to just to put everything on hold. Start in January. What's the problem here? Let the NFL
Yeah,
own the fall. Start in January. Play it a little bit later. Start with winter term. I mean, they all act like it's such a big deal to move it. Do you know what Autzen Stadium down in Eugene does from January until March? Nothing.
nothing.
It's empty.
Yeah,
Just play the games then. I guarantee you, Bryant Denny is empty. I guarantee you, the Neyland is empty. Just go play then. Like it's not that big a deal. Yeah, you have to rearrange some time frames, but boo-hoo, save some lives.
it would make it would make for a lot more interesting winter sport.
Oh, I
Basically,
love that idea.
football is a winter sport instead of a fall
Dying
sport.
to see the Arizona teams go up to Seattle in in what's it called in
A
January.
bigger disparity when you're playing in Pullman, Washington in January as opposed to Tucson,
Whoa.
Arizona. So it would be interesting to see. So what is back? We're going to talk about Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, or what isn't back? Major League Baseball is not back. They have not.
No.
What they've proposed though, they actually have a proposal out. And let's see the details of which, some of the details of which are an 82 game season, so a half season basically, more regional games, less cross country
Yeah.
games. So you'd be playing the teams that are around you more than you would. You wouldn't go from LA to New York, but you'd play the other New York teams in Philadelphia and Boston if you're in New York. That kind of thing. You'd play those teams more often, which is great for rivalry games. It's great for local things, but there's going to be no fans right now.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
Again, you get no home field advantage because there's no roar of the crowd when you do anything. Um, so they also talk about a universal designated hitter for all games. Like there'd be a designated hitter for every game. National League, American League doesn't matter. That to me is a problem. That's a sticking point for me because you're fundamentally changing the way a roster is built. American League rosters are built
Right.
built to handle that DH, but National League clubs don't use one. They don't have that. They have an extra pitcher built in as opposed to a hitter. So I feel like it's on.
Yeah, you give them an off season to fix that is what you need to do.
Yeah, I feel like you can't make that decision now. You'd have you just wherever you're playing, you play with their rules. The home team gets it's their rules. My house, my rules. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're also talking about 14 teams in a playoff as opposed to the normal. Well, what is it? 6 or 12. So they're adding an extra playoff
I'm not
team.
mad about that.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't. Why are we expanding the playoffs? Why would you do that?
It's something that they've always wanted to do, and now is the opportunity to do it. All these radical
Yeah.
ideas are something they've always wanted to do, and let's just use this weird 2020 season as the testing ground. If an 85 game season is successful or a shorter season, they're going to permanently change it. If they find that it works, they will drop out games. Like I have a feeling that everything here is a test for the regular season that's going to come up here soon.
Yeah, I don't like it. They're also fighting over the revenue split from the games and whether it's a 50-50 split or whatever they're going to do. But there's a lot to be hammered out still, and they haven't fully agreed upon it yet. Um, what I the thing that was interesting that I read today was the plan includes a 67-page health and safety protocol for Major League Baseball, and I want to cover a couple of little things that I read, and I don't. I, to me, it seems it's mind-boggling the concept of the amount of thought and process that had to go into this. What they're talking about, it goes beyond taking a temperature or testing, which you're going to have massive amount of testing to make sure everyone's safe. What we're talking about here is, let's assume you're at the plate, excuse me, and you hit a ball out into left field. Well,
Right.
left fielder has to pick that ball up,
Right.
throws it into second base, right? You get a
Hmm.
base hit and you're out. You're on first base. So now the left fielder has touched the ball that the pitcher touched, and the second baseman has touched the ball that the pitcher has touched. And now three people have touched it. They literally proposing you take that ball out of the game. We got to
Don't
put in.
they
We
kind
got,
of do that anyways? Don't they go through like a couple hundred balls in a game?
but not like that. That ball would stay in the game unless somebody asked to have it removed. That ball would be there for the next pitch, the next batter. So only foul balls, and anytime a pitcher goes, "Oh, this is scuffed. I want a new ball," that's when they remove balls. There's no this wouldn't normally happen. Now you're talking about what happens if two teams come out and they get, you know, 10 hits apiece and score runs and a couple of errors. every ball that gets hit basically, and somebody has to touch it, they're going to go out. They got to throw that ball out. You're going to throw a lot more baseballs. That's just the concept of remembering to throw the baseball out. And you haven't done that forever. It's not in the basic protocol of baseball. You throw it back to the pitcher. I mean, the pitcher and catcher are going to touch it on every pitch. There's two guys touching it every time.
So do we believe this COVID-19 is a big conspiracy by the baseball companies?
Yeah, I mean,
So just to make more baseballs?
the minute I read that, I went out and invested in Rawlings. Um, but so in addition to that, there's no high fiving, there's no spitting. How are you gonna tell a baseball player not to spit?
Well,
Um,
I mean, let's be real. Most sports they don't. Like baseball's the one sport left where you still see a guy with like a fat dip in his mouth in the dugout, and you're like,
no,
how is that still okay?
they're proposing no water or sports drinks in the dugout. None of the big jugs where you get your own water in the cup. You can't because everyone's gonna
Ooh,
touch it. There's
yeah, I don't like that.
no sunflower seeds or dip because you'd have to spit.
I get that.
Right? You can't hug or high five or dap. You can't. I don't know why that's a thing, but there's no lineup card exchange before the game. You send it via app before the game starts, so that
Sounds like the way it should have been being done for the last 10
I
years.
probably. Um, everyone has to be 6 feet from one another, of course, and the bench can only have players who are most likely to play. Like if you have a hurt player who's isn't going to play today, he's got to sit in the stands.
Yeah, you
And
can't come to. I agree with that.
and in between the players in the stands, there has to be 4 empty seats between you and the next guy, and at least 2 empty rows. So
Huh.
so you are 4 seats away from the next guy, and if a guy's behind you, he's got to be 2 rows back behind you, and that is a lot of distance. I mean, it's good. I agree with that, but that is just it's weird, and there's not gonna be nobody in the
Hmm.
fans anyway. So there's no you can't. How are you going to stop a pitcher who's used to pitching from licking his fingers?
I don't think you do. I think well, I mean, and what are you going to do if they do it?
Right.
If you're sitting there as an umpire and the pitcher licks his hand real quick, are you going to stop the game and give him a warning and then
So
kick him out
so
if he does it? Like, what is this going to turn into?
So this is my question: is how do you enforce these things, and can you, and will an umpire who's been doing this for 20 years in the major league, watching a pitcher pitch, touching his licking his fingers as he walks around the mound, that's part of the game. He licks his fingers, wipes it off on his uniform, gets a little grip, gets a little sticky. He's been watching that for 20 years. How is he all of a sudden going to go, oh, you can't do that? Uh,
Well, I mean, if he's doing his job, that's what he's paid to do,
It
so he
it
should be able to stop it. I
but
mean, but they miss stuff all the time.
it's
So,
it's different when you bring up a whole bunch of rule changes all at once.
well, but this is just a proposal. It's
Sure.
not locked in
Oh no,
stone.
you're
Like,
right.
I don't believe that this will go because I've heard that the NFLPA is already throwing a big fit about it. They don't like a lot of these rules, and with reason. Like you said, are you going to kick the pitcher out of the game if he licks his hand?
Oh, I would.
And it's like, oh, see, but that's the point. If it's a rule, he shouldn't be doing it. He should know better. But is that what you're going to do? Are you going to influence a game that much?
Right.
What about when a batter
It-
takes a step out of the batter's box and spits on his glove real quick and
Right.
rubs them together?
Right, because
Are
that's
you going to kick him out of the game?
and what I'm saying is it's so hard when that's part of your routine. It
Too
would be
much.
so hard for a pitcher, player, whatever, to change his routine that much, that he's going to be self-conscious of it. There's no way he's going to do that. He's going to revert to what he's used to. This is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. This is what I do, right?
I feel like baseball has more of these little things than any other sport
Yeah.
that
Well,
are going to be harder to adapt.
well, when I saw that it was 67 pages, I realized they were probably going a little overboard, and you wouldn't be able to enforce half of it. But
Yeah,
you
say
know,
do too much. It doesn't hurt.
you got a phone between the bullpen and the dugout, right? When a manager calls to the dugout to the bullpen to get
Yeah.
somebody warmed up, they got to wipe the phone down every time. They're not used to doing that. Who's doing that? Who's going to do that? You're gonna have a guy in the dugout. That's an extra guy in the dugout. Whose job is it to wipe down the phone? Manager's not going to do that.
One of the injured players.
He's got to come out of the stands and go in and go
No,
wipe
no,
down the phone.
he gets to be in the dugout
Oh,
now
the phone
because
guy.
he's now serving a function.
He's the wipe down guy.
He's the wipe down guy.
And I mean, you could take the balls out and probably wipe them down with something and put them back into play, I suppose. But or just let them sit for a couple days because it's not going to survive on the leather very long. But it's weird to me. It just seems like
I just think it's an initial proposal that's just gonna be heard, it's gonna be listened to, and then people are gonna be like, all right, well, let's move on. Like this isn't quite right. We got to refine this a little bit. We got to figure out what we can do. I think things like the spitting that can easily be modified. Stop spitting. It's not hard. I don't spit every day everywhere I go. Like
Well, you don't
it's
play.
just not a hard thing to do. You have to try. Usually you spit because you're hydrated, you're
Right.
overhydrated, so
Sure.
you're salivating and you have to spit. So with no water in the dugout, they will no longer be overhydrated and they'll no longer be spitting.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's an easy thing to do. Also, there's tons of sunflower seeds and dip, and if you get rid of those two things, the spitting goes down probably 80%.
Yeah.
So
I just
it's one of those things. I think it's just a proposal. It,
that.
it'll it'll get modified and changed.
Yeah, and the question is, how soon will that happen? How soon will they vote on it? How soon can we get baseball back up and moving? And you're going to need to probably have a brief training period, I would imagine, because you didn't even get full spring training um, before everything was shut down. So I would imagine there's been players sitting for 2 months who haven't been working out, who should have been, but they haven't been, and so there's going to need to be some kind of a training period, and then I don't know if they're going to play any preseason games or if they're just going to go. Um,
I doubt they would take any more games than necessary.
And that's what I'm thinking too, which means your first couple weeks of Major League Baseball being back, you might see some interesting baseball that should have been played in spring training, and there's going to be some mistakes and errors, and it'll make for interesting TV
It's
for
part of the
sure.
fun.
Absolutely, I think it's more entertaining to watch two teams who aren't very good than it is to watch teams that are really good and no one scores. That's just my take.
I think that's true. We're gonna get ourselves another 19 inning game.
Right? I hope so. That's never going to be broken. I said that. I made that statement already. It's never going to be 18 and a third innings in relief. Really?
He didn't even get a warm up
Okay.
time. I looked it up. He didn't get a warm up period, and the other guy did not get yanked because he was hurt. He got yanked because he had given up 2 runs.
Let's see.
That's it. And that roster only had two pitchers,
Oh
starter and a
my
relief.
gosh.
That's how baseball used to be. So that's why he played 19 innings because he couldn't put the other guy back in.
Yeah, I mean, and
You had to. It's either that or you put in that backup right
there,
fielder and hope he can make it happen.
there are relief pitchers in Major League Baseball right now who don't throw 18 innings in 18 games. Just
There
because,
are people, there are relief pitchers on MLB rosters who don't throw in a game
yeah.
for
Well,
like
yeah,
2 years, 3 years.
yeah. But
They're just emergency pitchers just in case. And back then they didn't even have that.
that's crazy. Anyway, it was. I thought that was one of the best facts
That's a
I've,
good
I've
one.
ever seen. So, just to update everyone, the Real Heroes 400 at Darlington Raceway still going on. Kevin Harvick is again the leader. Alex Bowman is behind him. Chase Elliott's in third. Kurt Busch is in fourth, followed by Kyle Busch. Everyone named Busch is in this, by the way. I think Laura Busch is in there too. So, it's a whole different Busch family. Shh.
It's a whole different line of bushes.
No, it's a whole lot. So one of the other sports that we love to watch and love to debate and talk about all the time is the NBA. We love to watch NBA basketball. It is a you and I have talked about it many times. You and I talk about NBA all the time, and we argue um, current versus old timey, new rules, all of it, all the stuff that goes on now versus what happened back in the day. Anyway, NBA is not playing. They suspended operations and they haven't played. It seems to me, from what I've read, they're still about 2 to 4 weeks away from even making a decision on how to come back and play. I mean, I'm sure they're working it out in the details, but what I read was Adam Silver is going to make that decision in June sometime.
Yeah, he's trying to. Well, again, he's waiting to see what everyone else kind of does.
So why not?
Everyone is waiting to see who screws up and who is successful, and then they're gonna follow that trend.
So why not just cancel this season? I know it's money. I know the answer is money. Why not just cancel this season and start preparing for your next year at the regular time? If you can come back during the summer and have guys go to camp and do what they're supposed to do and train and be ready for September, October. I think it's October, end of October when they start. Might be November. Anyway, be prepared for basketball at the regular time next year and just scrap this season. What they're
I
instead,
think once you get to June, you got to do that. Like
right.
once you get if in June you haven't decided to start, then you just need to decide to stop because you're only like 5 months away from the start of the next season.
So here's what I've got though. Let me just say, the NBA. This is what I read. They're contractually obligated to some regional television markets to give them 70 games a year. Right now, as an example, the Boston Celtics are at 64 games. They're 43 and 21.
A little
So,
short.
so they're about 6 games short. So here's one of the proposals. We're going to get all the teams to come back, play the remaining 6 games for everybody that makes it 70, and then we'll start the playoffs. I what is the incentive for a team who is clearly not going to make the playoffs to come back and play 6 games?
There isn't one.
There,
There absolutely is not one. However, there's tons of incentive for fringe teams like the Blazers. Nurk will be back. Zach Collins will be back. This time, this break has
sure,
allowed them to get extremely healthy. And even though I think they're in like the ninth or 10th spot right now, can easily make a push to try and get in that spot. It's not many games, but you could try and get in that spot. It blows my mind that, that they're waiting this long to decide, but every minute they wait is a bubble team's getting healthy,
yeah,
and that's kind of the tough part about it. I think they want to do it though because I think the NBA is the dominant sport in America. Like people think the NFL is the biggest one. I think it depends on who you're looking at. But I think in terms of people who go to games, buy merchandise, and watch TV, I think it's still the NBA. And there's more games. There's so many more games, and people will tune into all of them. I think that defining a winner in that, all this offseason drama with LeBron and AD, gathering up, and Kawhi and PG gathering up, there was so much build to this point of, LeBron in the finals.
yeah.
Versus, or in the what's called the Western Conference Championship, you have LeBron and Kawhi. Like, it's all this buildup, and we're just getting no resolution. And the NBA has money in that. They have a stake in that. Like, they did not pursue with tampering charges against AD and against LeBron's agent because of what was going to happen, and it's not happening. So now I sort of look back like, okay, well, there's a lot that went on, and he didn't get anything from it.
So here's some proposal. There's 3 different ones, and one is we finish out the 70 games and then we start playoffs. Okay, great. Second proposal is, well, we just take the record they have now, and the first, I don't know, 6 teams are automatically in, and then everyone else that's 7 through 12 gets into a play-in tournament to play
I
into
like that.
the field. Um, And then the other proposal is, we just take what the record is now and we start the playoffs. Just run playoffs. That would be the shortest, quickest way in.
I don't like that
Wherever
though.
you,
I think it's. I mean, the teams that are in are going to be in. Like, your
yeah,
Milwaukee, your Lakers, they're in. Like, it doesn't matter what mode you choose, they're in. You're going to screw some team that's got a chance. Maybe a team like
hmm.
Memphis, who is looking at the back end of their schedule, going, "Man, there's a couple winnable games here. We win those, and we're in." And then you just get rid of them. They're like, "Nah, you're not going to be in this year. Sorry."
Yeah, but by the same token, the teams at the top are winning, 65% of their games, 70% of their games. If you're not doing that, that's not on. You shouldn't penalize another team. You know what I
They're
mean?
not. Those teams aren't getting penalized.
Well,
They're
no.
in all 3
What
formats.
what I'm getting at is that you shouldn't. The team that's, let's say, a team that's in a 7th spot right now, right?
Yeah.
They've won enough to be in the playoffs if you started the playoffs today. They've won enough.
Yeah.
They've done enough. But now you're going to make them play in against the 12 team. How you going to make them play a 3-game series, 4-game series, 7-game
Yeah,
series?
but the problem is let's say you're a 9 seed, and last game you rested somebody because you knew you had 20 games left.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to need him to play this team and this team down the stretch. He needs to rehab this injury right now. Maybe you don't sit him if you know the season ends before that. There's too much convolution there.
What I'm saying is there's a lot of unfair. You're not going to be able to make this fair. There's no way to make these things fair because what you're talking about is teams that have played 64 games. How many home games has Boston played? Well, maybe they had a front-loaded home schedule, and all their games were going to be on the
Yeah.
road. But you now cancel all those road games, and now they look great.
That's right. Helps them out quite a bit.
And vice versa. Team that had a whole bunch of road games to start the season that's in 10th place in the conference could make all those home games up at the end of the year. The last 20 games, maybe they're 12 of them or 13 of them are at home. They got a favorable schedule, and they can't if you don't let them because you penalize. The way the schedule was made for 82 games, but you're penalizing somebody, regardless of who it is, whether it's the team that's ahead or the team that's behind, because now you're going to talk about, even if you do start playing more games, playing them on a neutral site where no one gets a home game, which is not fair to the team that played more road games to start the year. So they're at a disadvantage to start. It seems weird, and it seems like there's no way to make this fair. There's no proposal you could make that would be even and fair at this point.
No, I don't think there is. So kind of just cancel it.
That's what I was thinking. But they aren't
If you
doing that.
can't make it fair, then you have to cancel it. But
They're,
if you cancel it, that means that you're doing what you're about to do to LeBron's team, and I think
or
that that's a big deal. Or Giannis's team.
yeah, it's true. And I would imagine that those teams that are at the top are all in favor of let's keep playing, right? The teams that are in the top 4 or 5, and the teams that are further down are like, if we cancel it, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like there's no way to make this fair. But those are the proposals. They're talking about playing this literally in a bubble environment. Here's the most ridiculous thing I've heard of all the sports things. They're talking about playing in a quote unquote bubble environment in either Las Vegas or Orlando, and having all of the teams, like the East Coast teams, play in Orlando and the West Coast teams play in Las Vegas, and play these games there in a closed environment. They call it a bubble environment, except what they're proposing, or what we've heard, is that they would allow players to leave the bubble and come back. You have to be tested when you come back.
Of course.
They would allow players' families to come in the bubble. They
Tested, of course.
And I'm like, so if you're going to allow people to just go in and out, why not just leave them at home? What's the bubble for? Why are you trying to control where they live and play if you're
The
going to
bubble has more to do with the testing than it
if
has
you're
to do with the actual like volume of
un,
people. If you
un,
can test everyone, then do it.
understood, but you're going to have to test every player anyway that comes in the
Yeah.
bubble. So let them stay at home and test them before they go to the game. Why are you going to test? You're talking about if a guy doesn't leave the bubble and he stays in the bubble for the entire time that the playoffs and whatever happens,
Yeah.
then he doesn't have to be tested again. Oh, I don't know if that's necessarily. I mean, maybe that's what they're talking about
Isn't that what a hospital does? You go to the hospital and you stay in the hospital till you're better, and you get tested regularly while you're there, and
regularly.
people can come and visit you,
Yeah.
and kind of like if you're super sick or if you have a contagious disease, they won't let them in the room with you.
Kind
Like it's similar. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea. Yeah, if you're gonna do it, let's just get it all done with. Put them all in one place. Have them play the games. Put it all. It's that way you don't have to change out cameras. You don't have to change out camera crews. You don't have to change out broadcasters. You don't have to
It's true.
change out home team staffs and away team staffs. It's the same people all the time.
I think
It's only the only interchangeable pieces are the players and their
yeah.
families.
I just
Everyone else is the same.
I just feel like this it creates so much you're creating so much work and hassle that and I understand you're just after a little bit of money, playoff revenue. You're after playoff TV revenue. I get it. Why not if you just stop now, you could start next year because if you run playoffs and you don't start playing basketball until July or you don't even no, you don't even propose till July and then they're talking about having a mini camp like a preseason. So that
Yeah, get warmed up.
got to get back in shape because you've been off for 2 months, right? Um, and so if you're going to, let's say you assume you approve a proposal in July and you take 2 or 3 weeks to get back into damn shape, it's August before you're starting to play basketball again. And you know how long the playoffs take just to play in general. It's going to be October before you're done.
Make them 3 games. Make them 3 game
Sure,
playoffs.
but you should already be starting next year. And when is your off season now? They're not going to have one or they're going to push next season back even further. Why not just cancel this year and start next year on time and do it right?
I mean, right is relative because next year
Sure.
could be impacted by
You're
all of
abs-
this too.
Yep,
And then you're having to do the bubble thing to start next
but
year,
if that
and then you already have a little practice now.
I don't think the bubble thing is sustainable over the course of an NBA season, 82 games. I don't think you're gonna be able to do that. I just don't. If the lockdown were to continue for a whole until next May, I don't think you'll be able to do that. I just it's you're paying money to send a team to a neutral site every day costs you money, and you're not getting any revenue from having a game in your arena. So
But you also don't have any expenses for the arena. It's not operating.
it doesn't
You don't
matter.
have staff there that are operating. You don't have lights that are operating.
Sure.
You don't have fans that you're having to
You're right.
accommodate. You have no expenses.
But you have 41 games every year that account for about 40% of your annual revenue. So 40% of your annual revenue is gone already, and now every game's a road game. So you're going to lose money. There's no way you're going to make money. It's just there's no way. So if every team's in a losing proposal of losing money, then there's no revenue sharing. There's no it's going to cause some problems. Salary cap issues start becoming an issue because you don't have any money to pay anybody at some point because you're going to lose some money. It's all going to be, it's a snowball effect. And I think if it lasts that long, you're going to have major problems with sports, just major problems. So I don't see how, why don't we just prepare for next season like it's going to happen and hope that by October, this is gone and you can go back to doing what you normally do, or at least some sort of playing at home as opposed to a bubble.
I think
That's,
that would be logical. I just think that you have to get over the fans.
yeah, well, that's
You know,
true.
everything that they do is because of fans, and right now you're trying to talk to fans and tell them, oh yeah, we're not going to crown a champion this year.
I am
People, man.
I am curious to see how the next 2 or 3 weeks of the world plays out in sports because I think we're going to see stuff happen in the next, well, let's say 4 weeks up into June. You're going to start seeing some stuff. Things we haven't touched on today, um, just briefly, in the tennis world. They are playing a some tennis tournaments, if you will call them that, down in Florida. They've played a couple of like 4-person tennis tournaments. It's kind of like a trial thing behind closed doors at a closed court, and there's no ball boys. There's one head judge, guy in a chair, one umpire, and no linesman,
Yeah.
no ball boys, none of that stuff. You don't have coaches. There's no fans. There's no nothing. You're just literally playing indoors in a court, and just it's two guys going at it, or girls, and they're trying that in the hopes that they could do a tournament later like that, but they still have no plans to actually start a regular tour tournament that would have 32 seeded players and draws
Yeah.
and so it feels like they don't even know how to go about it yet. They're trying, but the problem with tennis, like you have with golf, like you have with Formula One, each tournament, the major tournament especially, are in another country. I got to go from this country to that country. That country's got a different set of restrictions. So how do I
Right.
travel and arrange hotel and move between countries when it's all every time every week we're in a different location? In PGA Tours not as bad in that a lot of those are played in the United States, but the tennis tours are definitely international and they move around from country to country almost every week. So that would be interesting to see if they can come up with some sort of way to do that. I think tennis is one of the sports you should be able to do. It's social distancing already, right? You're way over
Yeah.
there. I'm way over here. Not like golf where you got to start at the same place and end at the
Well,
same
they'll have
place.
to throw out the ball every time, hits the net.
Well, in theory, only one person's going to touch it when they throw the ball up and they hit it, and it's going to go back and forth, and nobody's going to hit it with their hand. It's just going to be a racket. So you really wouldn't. You just have these balls are yours to serve with, and these balls are yours to serve with. Huh?
Yeah.
But I don't know if
I
that's
mean, in theory.
in theory. And you got to go chase your own down when you hit it in the net because there's no ball boy. Anyway, I don't know. Tennis is like that. I was reading the NHL information about the NHL. I was trying to look into see what they have decided. They really seem uncertain about anything, about starting things, when they're going to hold their draft, eh, about they're not going to. It doesn't look like they're going to conclude this season. It kind of looks like they're just scrapping the whole thing and deciding maybe they are going to start next year and see what happens. And if they scrap the year, they're going to move the draft up a little bit. It just seems weird that there's no information out there about the NHL, and they would be playing their playoffs too. So
Yeah, they put out this thing the other day that talked about they have the return to play committee and they're discussing a 2014 format to finish out their season.
for a
But
playoff,
there was like a sticking point. No, not yet. There was a
oh
sticking point with the players. They want to finish regular season games.
ah
I'm assuming that's because there were a handful of teams that were just like the NBA vying for position.
yeah.
So yeah, they want to finish regular season games. So they've said that the schedule will reportedly involve games, quote, games in some form before playoff games begin.
If it gets approved and if they start doing it,
Yeah, if it gets approved.
yeah.
But
Because
yeah, of course they have to follow state, all the state, regulations, all the county regulations, all the city regulations. They have to do all that, and that will be the only way teams will be allowed to play. But yeah, 24 teams.
and then I started reading. I mean, I was delving into all these sports and I was pulling up all this information. F1, for example, Formula One racing. That's a sport that goes from country to country every week, right? Different race in a different location every Sunday, and when you do that again, you run into those different travel restrictions. And we're not just talking about going from England to the United States to Germany. You're talking about going to Singapore, going to Vietnam, and they have races at these places, and some of them are city courses, in like in the middle of the city. They have a race course that they set up, and they drive around through the city. That seems like it requires a lot more preparation to get secure, so that people aren't just wandering by on, you know what I mean, near the
Yeah.
racetrack. I mean, so there's a lot more involved. There's sports like that I haven't even thought about how logistically, difficult it's going to be to get it back to normal. You could do some of them, some of the races, and they're planning on by July. They're hoping to be able to get back to racing. But it seems like one of those things that you've got all these different racers from all these different countries going to a different country after different country every week, and that seems like a recipe. If one guy gets it, has has COVID, then he's going to pass it along from country to country. If
Possibly.
Yeah, but they're going to have to test, and all of this is testing. I mean, let's be
Well,
honest.
not every country is letting people travel either.
Right,
Like there was a guy who was supposed to fight at UFC who wasn't allowed to leave his country,
right. And
so he couldn't fight.
and a lot of this, all of this, baseball, basketball, golf, all of this is going to revolve around how much testing they're able to do. The return is going to revolve around, are we able to test and keep people safe and be relatively sure that no one has it and is going to spread it. You've got to be able to do that. Otherwise, there's no way to come back, period. Um, yeah, if everyone gets infected, you pretty much can't play. Or at that point, can you? Because, maybe you just can because everyone's got it.
Hmm.
COVID League, 2020. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. It just seems weird that all of these sports, everyone's trying. It's going to require a Herculean effort to come back and get some sort of normalcy. It seems like, and there are certain sports it seems like would be better prepared for that: baseball, golf, tennis, and yet tennis seems like one of those that just doesn't know what to do. They don't feel like they have a plan to do it, and I feel like it should be easy because there's not very many people involved. I don't know. What do I know?
We don't know anything.
We don't
We're
know
trying
anything.
to know something, but
We're
there's no information.
we're
I
learning.
I, I think you're right. 2 to 3 weeks of we'll find out a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna reveal itself. Quick update on the Real Heroes 400 at Darlington. It's a it's it's a final.
Nail biter.
It's a final now. Apparently, let me refresh it just because I'm not 100% certain, but it says it's final. So Kevin Harvick is your winner of the Real Heroes 400. Alex Bowman in second, Kurt Busch in third, Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin 4 and 5. So NASCAR's back. They've had one race. We'll see what the testing turns up afterwards. Everybody's going to get tested again, and then they're going to be on to another week next week. I'm assuming they're going to have um, another race. So next week, according to the calendar that they're showing, the Toyota 500 also in Darlington, South Carolina.
Ooh, lots of
So
lots of action in
so if
South Carolina.
so if they don't have to travel, maybe that's good. Um, the Coca-Cola 600 is the Memorial Day weekend. Um, oh, this was the Toyota. No, what day is today? Today's the 17th.
Today's 17th.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So they're going to squeeze another race in Darlington since they're already there on Wednesday, the 20th. And then on next Sunday, over Memorial Day weekend, the Coca-Cola 600 from Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then another. So what they're trying to do is put two in a row in places that are close together because they have a NASCAR Cup Series at Charlotte the following Wednesday after Memorial Day. So they're trying to do two in a row. They're trying to squeeze these races in to get their whole basically season done. Two races a week until they're caught up, and then it'll go back to one. But the race season goes through November 8th at this point. So anyway, long story short, NASCAR's back. You can watch NASCAR on TV. It's on Fox. They own the thing every Sunday. They should be racing, and now it looks like every Wednesday for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So Bundesliga, German soccer's back. You can watch those Saturdays and Sundays on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. Korean baseball, it's on ESPN. Early in the morning, remember Korea is, if you want to know what time it is in Korea, it is 4 hours forward and a whole day. So 28
Oh
hours,
gosh.
28 hours ahead of you. So if it's 4 a.m., it's it's 8. Wait, no, hold on. It's 16. I can't remember now. You got to change the AM to PM. So it's 4 hours. Add 4 hours and change it from AM to PM. That's what it is. So there you go. So it's at 4 a.m. It's now 8 p.m. in Korea. So that's how you figure out why those games start at 4 in the morning and 3 in the morning. They're starting at 7 p.m. Korean time. You just have to get up really early to watch it. And
What we
then,
hope is that they have like a 30 inning game that goes to when we about wake up.
yeah, we can watch the last 2 innings.
That's right. Watch the last two innings.
We can watch that reliever who's been in for 28 innings. Um, and
Jeez
then
Louise.
UFC, of course, is still fighting. They're doing all their regular fights as scheduled. You can check out UFC has their own page, UFC.com. You can go look and see what the schedule is for that. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about whatever breaking news there is in the COVID world. We are going to cover those four wild card weekend football games. Wild card weekend for us, the 2000s NFL Championship. We'll probably follow that up with something um, maybe baseball related. We did basketball, we did football. Maybe we'll do a baseball championship or
I like
something.
that.
Yeah, after that. But next weekend is the 2000s NFL Championship wild card weekend. That is going to last for 4 weeks. We'll be able to do that, right? So the wild card weekend, the divisional weekend, the AFC NFC Championship, and then the Super Bowl, where we will crown the winner of the decade of the 2000s.
That's right.
And it's totally official. There's a trophy and everything. So
At least we say there's at least we say there's one.
I will take a picture and everyone will see the trophy. Um, Anything else we want to talk about before we go? You?
Gosh.
Any?
Nothing I can think of. I was just I saw a tweet there saying that people are out trying new sports like skateboarding and things like that, like the people I watch on this Roo. And so if anybody wants to try a new sport or try something weird or whatever, just let's videotape it and send it to us because we want to see the new sports and we'll see how your progress is coming in quarantine.
Yeah, and so what has happened is your mother and I have resorted to playing cornhole in the backyard, by the way. And
It is a fantastic game, sometimes called bag toss on these in different places.
it depends on,
It's
yeah,
the dumbest name.
it's a regional thing, and
Yeah.
it's fun and it's nice. When the weather's nice, you get outside and you get it fools your Fitbit into thinking you're taking steps, and you you get a lot of arm workout. But what I've realized is that I'm not really good at it. So I mean, okay, I don't have the best equipment either because my boards are bouncy and the bags. I don't know. It seems weird. It seems I watched some guys on TV earlier today playing in the American Cornhole League. Those guys are throwing it at or near the hole every time. Now I get it. They've done this more than I have. I feel like I should be fairly good at it. I've played a lot of sports. I'm fairly athletic. I have good hand-eye coordination. I feel like I should be better at it than I am.
I mean, also your backyard has a ton of wind. So every time you throw the bag, you have to factor in it's going to move about 7 inches one way or the other, and it's constantly changing. It seems.
Yeah,
So
we played up here what 3 weeks ago, something like that, and it there might have been about a 15-mile-an-hour wind in the backyard. It had a little effect on the bags, and by little I mean every time you threw it, you really had no idea where it was going. So that was pretty that was pretty interesting. But we played Friday night, and there was no wind, and it was still not easy. So
yeah, it's not an easy game. I used to play it a lot when I worked at a bar back in Knoxville. It's not easy.
but we're going to continue to do it, and I will continue to update everyone on how good I'm getting. So we'll know more later. Maybe there's pictures next week. Anyway, next week, 2000s NFL Championship wildcard weekend. We're talking about whatever happens in COVID. We are going to try and keep you updated on the stuff we talked about, the NCAA violations, allegations from Louisville, Kansas, maybe Zion Williamson at Duke. There hasn't been a
There
whole
just
lot.
hasn't been much.
Yeah, there hasn't been much. So we will try and keep you updated. If we find out more information, we'll let you know. If one of these sports decides they're going to open, we'll definitely let you guys know that. We will be on again next Sunday I don't know what time it's going to be exactly yet, but we were going to tweet it. Again, you can hit us. You can tweet us at Lamm Sports on Twitter. Email lambsports@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. If you just type in the Best Lamm Sports Show, you'll find it. YouTube, again, hit in the search bar, the Best Lamm Sports Show. You'll be able to get to the link to the live stream that we're going to do again next week. I assume it's going to be Sunday. I assume it'll be somewhere in the afternoon, but I will let you know by Wednesday. I'll put out a post on Wednesday, and everybody can follow us if you want to listen to it live. Last thoughts?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands still, and if you don't have to go out and get coffee, you should stay home. I mean, you're going to do it. You're going to do what you got to do, right? It has been
Right.
the weather has been fantastic, and people have been walking around like crazy around here. Anyway, just saying, I understand. I feel the spring fever slash, the being cooped up I want to go outside. I want to go do stuff. I really want to go play golf, and I may go do that at some point in time because apparently in Washington State that's okay now. So, um, anyway, long story short, wash your hands, stay inside,
Yep.
go do what you got to do, stay healthy. We hope to see everybody next week. This has been the Best Lamb Sports Show from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Ellensburg.